Don's Seafood at 4801 Veterans Boulevard in Metairie with the soft shell crab, second to none, the spice to kick it up a notch. You want good meat, you want good fish, or gratin potatoes? Oh my, the charbroiled oysters. They're not playing fair here, folks, at Don's. It's too good, and it doesn't get any better than Don's Seafood Hut in Metairie. And we're so glad that you've joined us for this edition of sportsNOLAtv. A pleasant good evening to you, Ken Trahan of sportsNOLA.com. Welcome one and all as we break down the New Orleans Saints demolition of the Dallas Cowboys, LSU's disappointing loss at Alabama, Tulane's disappointing loss, of course, at UTSA. We'll also have prep football and our prep player of the week and much more forthcoming, and we'll break it all down with our outstanding panelists, including former New Orleans Saints wide receiver Torrance Small. Torrance, good evening to you.
How we doing, Ken? And I'd like to send a salute out to all the veterans today.
Amen to that. Brian Alley Walsh of sportsNOLA.com with us per usual. And Brian, it's great to have you with us.
Thank you, Kenny. Always a pleasure to be here.
Wow. Stoic man. Man, a few words. That will change, I assure you. And of course, the third member of our panel was part of some fun at the New Orleans Saints game last night, where the Saints, of course, took apart the Dallas Cowboys because the inaugural Ring of Honor recipients were introduced at halftime on the floor of the Mercedes-Benz Superdome last night. Archie Manning, of course, an iconic figure in Saints history and then New Orleans history, part of the landscape. Archie in great shape. Always good to see him. We know this guy, despite wearing the hat, okay? Oh, there we go. That's a beautiful thing, and they spelled his name right, too. That's always encouraging to see that. Those who know him know how to spell it. That's a smile, folks. He's happy, and he should be. He's got the light shining on him, and so does this big fella who dwarfed everybody. It's the only smart guy in the bunch. He didn't wear a tie. Willie Roaf. There you go, Willie. 9 years, and he was dominant. What a great football player he was. And, of course, our own Ricky Jackson posing with the other two gentlemen. I know he was honored to be there, and we're honored to know you as our friend, Ricky. We're honored to have you as part of the show. Congratulations to you, brother.
Thank you very much. I tell you what, man, I couldn't have went in with a better class. Those two guys, man, they show a lot of class, and I tell you what, I was proud of those guys just like they was proud of me. And always being the first of something, you know, you can never be second when you're first.
That's Ricky Jackson, the one and only. We'll take a timeout. When we return in just a moment, we'll talk about the Saints' victory over the Dallas Cowboys when sportsNOLAtv continues with highlights in a moment. Brian Alley Walsh and I have been around the Saints for a long time. I used to travel with the team, cover them all the time, and I remember that game vividly. Brian, I know you do as well, and you know some specifics about that.
Dr. Trahan, in that game, there were two Saints running backs that rushed for more than 100 yards.
Ricky Jackson and Torrance Small.
Absolutely.
That's what I thought.
Oh, I'm always in there. I know I'm always in there. At least on the in and around or something.
Oh. Well, you know, when you think about it, Kenny, what is that, 23 years ago,
Yes.
if I'm after that? That's a long time.
And the answer is?
Reuben Mays and
Craig.
Hey, there you go.
I'll tell you what, two guys.
That's right.
Ironhead's no longer with us. God rest his soul.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
And Reuben is still doing, he's alive and kicking, and those were two really good running backs.
You know, I had the opportunity to play with Ironhead on 3 different teams.
3 different teams.
3 different teams.
Wow.
What does that say about your relative ability that you ended up on 3 different teams?
We chased the money.
Okay, all right.
Did he follow you or did you follow him?
You know, I genuinely appreciate the man's
followed the
sincerity.
We follow where the green was.
It's all beautiful. All right, the Saints win over Dallas, and it's a demolition. Brian, they took Dallas apart. Dallas had some injuries defensively, but they're no good defensively to start with, and when guys are leaving the game in the middle of the game, it just made it that much worse.
Kenny, I'll tell you what, we've seen a lot of football, as you mentioned, and I don't remember a game where in professional game where the will was imposed. I mean, Dallas did not have an answer, particularly in the second half. They just had no answer to the Saints. 625 yards, 40 first downs. That is mind-boggling.
Oh, yeah.
As we review the final numbers, and again, look at the snaps, Torrance, 80 snaps to 43. 80 snaps. You can do some damage when you have that many snaps, right?
If you look at these stats, we doubled them in everything. Just about rushing, passing.
How about
look
triple?
at the third down conversion. 0 for 9, we had 9 of 12.
Right.
We doubled them in everything.
Totally dominating performance by the Saints. Ricky, you played defense, and obviously Rob Ryan got run out of Dallas undeservingly. I think he was vindicated last night. I think we know that he was a scapegoat in Dallas. This guy's a good defensive coordinator, and he's proving it here.
Well, I tell you what, man, we needed that. Dallas did us a favor. Now we got us a good coordinator, and we're able to play great defense and win some ball games. But I tell you what, last night it was just out there that Dallas don't have the quality of players that a lot of people thought. You can see that. I mean, and that was the whole key to it. They need to get back to having somebody with some football knowledge around there to get some great players, and their players are not that good.
Yeah, and they're way over the cap, too. Their
Right.
future doesn't look real good, Ryan.
Kenny, a year ago when the Saints beat Dallas 34-31 in overtime, Drew Brees and that offense against Rob Ryan piled up 562 yards and 91 offensive plays. So Brees has done a number against first Rob and now Monty. I mean, we'll see what happens
Well,
to
the
Monty.
Saints
Kiffin.
have beaten them 3 straight times in 8 of 9. They've dominated Dallas. This is a good matchup for New Orleans, Torrance, and that sometimes it works out that way in the NFL with matchups.
Yeah, so sometimes it's a game of matchup. But if you look over the years, Dallas defense just haven't been forced. The talent-wise, they haven't had the talent-wise since the early 90s. They just haven't had the talent. And that goes to Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones just not bringing in the right players to fit what they're looking for to change that team, change the culture around there.
A lot of encouraging things, Ricky, about this game, but certainly one of the most encouraging things had to be the offensive line just controlling the point of attack throughout, and Mark Ingram having a big game. And I know he had big holes to run through, but still it was good for him and good for this football team to run the ball well.
Well, I mean, all the guys, when you get to play a team, man, that got some holes in that defense, you want to get your shot at them. And that's what you seen yesterday. Everybody who taught the ball was really trying to make a name for themselves and really trying to show people what they can do. I mean, they weren't worried about getting hit, holes everywhere. All you got to do is just take off and go, and that made a big difference.
Injuries are part of the game. They're not an excuse, Brian, but certainly who's available week to week makes a huge difference in this league. Dallas was lacking players, lost more players. Just go back to a week ago. The Saints didn't have Darren Sproles after the first series of the game. They didn't have Marcus Colston the whole game. I dare say if they would have had those two against the Jets, they might have won the game.
Absolutely, Kenny, and that was a knock against Rob Ryan and the Cowboys last year. He was playing with one arm behind his back because of injuries. Cowboys lose Sean Lee yesterday during the game, but the Saints were without Malcolm Jenkins and Roman Harper still not back out on the field. So I mean, they've got their own set of injuries that they've got to deal with as well.
And they might be without Kenny Vaccaro. It looks, if you read his Instagram account coming into this game this coming week, which we'll talk about a little bit later on. Okay, Torrance, Des Bryant, self-proclaimed, I'm as good as Megatron, everything else. He caught one ball in this game. What do the Saints do so well to take him out of the game?
Well, we doubled him. We had one over the top and had one under. We played him tight man to man. We challenged him off the ball. We didn't just let him come off the ball clean. We challenged him off the ball, and then we had somebody over the top. I don't blame that on Dez. Dez is too great of a talent not to get the ball thrown to him. I blame that on the offensive coordinator. The offensive coordinator did not move him enough, move him around enough. They didn't set him in motion. They didn't put him inside. They didn't bunch him. They didn't try to open up things for him.
Concerns, Ricky, I guess if you want to talk about one, it's the Saints' run defense. When the game was still in the balance early on, the Saints got gashed by the run again.
Well, it wasn't gas. It was just out there. Look at one or two players that made the bad choice. I mean, they got hooked. A guy was all the way on the inside, hooked the guy on the outside. That was just alignment. That's what happened to the Saints. I mean, they played great run defense, but every now and then, just like Terrence know that, you got to take care of your home and your business and your side. And guys were looking and trying to do something that they shouldn't have been doing. And that's what happened to the Saints. Guy was out of position.
Brian, how concerned are you about Garrett Hartley moving forward in a close game against good teams, which they will be facing in the weeks to come? They need him to make these field goals.
I agree, and he missed 2 outside against the Jets, and now he missed another one inside against the Cowboys. And you know what? It may come down as we go forward here the rest of the season, you're going to need him to make these things. I think it's a big concern, Ken.
Yeah, and Thomas Morstead, no concern at all. He just continues to do his job very well.
Oh yes, he's been great for us, but we definitely have to get better in the kicking game. It wasn't just when in the two that he missed in the chest. He's missed some early in the season as well, and we have to take note to that. And I think we need to be very concerned because in close games we're going to need him.
Yeah, these are perfect conditions kicking indoors in the Superdome, and if it's inside of 40, it should be automatic. You've got to make those. 40 to 50, got to make most. 50 and out, different story, but these were very makeable field goals. When we continue in just a moment, we'll take a trip around the NFL and look at the results with analysis from this past weekend in the NFL on sportsNOLAtv from Don Seafood in Metairie on WHNO Channel 20. Our sportsNOLA.com trivia question for this evening. Sunday night's win was the Saints' 12th consecutive primetime victory in the Mercedes-Benz Superdome. Question: who was the last team to defeat the Saints at home at night? Should not be very difficult. Recent Saints memory and a memorable time. I'll leave it at that. We'll have the answer for you a little bit later on in the show. As sportsNOLAtv continues from Don Seafood on Veterans in Metairie, it's good. I'm Ken Trahan. And it's time to take a look at NFL results from this past weekend. As we review the scoreboard, we find out about some more upsets that took place around the league and some that were expected results. Of course, the early game for the week was Minnesota outscoring Washington. Seattle dismissing Atlanta. The Falcons season is just falling apart. Baltimore rescued one in overtime after nearly blowing it in regulation on a Hail Mary tip ball. Detroit, big win over Chicago. Looks like Detroit could be a team to beat in the Central because Green Bay's without Rodgers, and they got beat by Philadelphia, who looks like the team to beat in the East. How about this result in Indianapolis? St. Louis not only winning, but dismantling the Colts 38-8. And the Giants, signs of life, got by Oakland 24-20. Pittsburgh gets a win over Buffalo. Jacksonville is in the win column. Jake Locker could be done. Carolina, in a defensive war at San Francisco, got the road win. Arizona, don't look now, they're 5-4. They got Houston and Denver. Got a big lead and then held on to beat San Diego 28-20. We'll see if Peyton Manning's ankle is good enough for him to go next week. He says it is. Miami and Tampa Bay in the Battle of Florida on Monday Night Football shortly. Time to go over what impressed us most, what got our attention in the NFL. Torrance, what did you see that impressed you the most?
Carolina and San Francisco. That's in our division. I thought it was a big game by Carolina. They're one game still behind us. We can't take this team lightly. This team is playing lights out on defense, and Cam Newton in the running game is giving them an opportunity to win ball games. But they live on their defense, and now that's something that we have to look forward to, I think, in the next coming games, because they're right behind us.
Brian?
Good choice, my tall tall glass of water. I like St. Louis going into the Lucas Oil Stadium and beating the Colts convincingly. And you know what? That is an omen. We've got the Saints have St. Louis in about 5 weeks, I think, 6 weeks. That's a good team, and it's only going to get better. That's a smackdown in Indianapolis, beating the Colts like that.
It was.
Ricky?
I'll tell you what, Detroit winning the ball game close at the end like that really helping them out, making them a chance to get in the playoff. But my thing was just looking at the Saints, how everybody getting healthy on offense, and looking at the things that Drew Brees doing, it makes it seem like a video game. He getting these guys the ball. They got such a great receivers that are catching the ball, great tight end. Running backs is doing a great job. Offensive line hold up. The Saints going to be an offensive machine.
Good points about Detroit. They've had 2 straight wins like that. That tells you they're a team that's turned the corner and that they're pretty good. Certainly a good point about the Rams and where they're at and what they're doing. Carolina's been outstanding as well. Bottom line is that there are a lot of games to point to, but I look at Philadelphia because the NFC East is the NFC least. These teams aren't any good. And to me, Philadelphia is going to win that division because their quarterback, Nick Foles, is stepping up and playing well, and they got weapons. So I'll point to Philadelphia with their win over Green Bay. Let's take a look at the standings in the NFC South, and nothing changes. The Saints maintain a one-game lead over Carolina. It's a two-team race. Falcons and Tampa Bay just basically playing the string out or playing spoiler, and you know they'll both try to spoil it for the Saints down the road. And we've talked about it for weeks now, Brian, but obviously this will come down to the two head-to-head matchups between the Saints and Panthers.
I tell you what, their defense is second to none. Carolina's, that is, and going out in San Francisco and doing what they did, they sacked Kaepernick 6 times. They forced turnovers, and you're right, that as long as Newton doesn't turn the ball over, Kenny, that's a formidable team.
The best defenses in the league are Seattle, Carolina, and probably San Francisco, Torrance.
And that's it. Defense win ball games, offense show up and show out. That's what we've been doing down here, showing up and showing out. But we're going to need our defense hasn't been bad as well. They've been playing pretty well on defense. We're doing well, but I definitely think defense gives you an opportunity.
Ricky, you talked about this Saints offense. I can't wait, at least from my perspective, to see how the Saints match up against those defenses: San Francisco, Carolina, and Seattle. You'll find out about this Saints offense.
Well, I tell you, if everybody stay healthy and like we did yesterday, the offensive line do their job, I don't think those guys will be able to stop us. We have a lot of fast receivers and a great tight ends, so I think we'll be able to put up some points against them.
You know what I like about the teams that you mentioned, Kenny? What I like about the Saints is not only are they a prolific offense, but their defense is just maybe a slight hair behind the ones you just mentioned. I mean, to me, they've got the total package, and I think we're going to see that in the coming month.
I'm concerned about their health on defense with Vaccaro hurt and with the way Harper's been hurt and Jenkins hurt. They've got to get some people back so that they're able to field the team they need to field to be successful against the good teams. Well, speaking of somebody that was successful on the field, Leroy Glover was awfully successful as a player for the New Orleans Saints. He was an outstanding defensive lineman, and Leroy Glover will be inducted into the Saints Hall of Fame this coming Friday, and the induction luncheon is at noon, and it is at the Airport Hilton Hotel in Kenner. That's this coming Friday at noon. And Pete Finney will be honored with the Joe Gimelli Fleur-de-Lis Award. What a wonderful man and journalist he has been for nearly 7 decades. The All Saints Night Gala the following night, Saturday, November 16th, 6 p.m. Club 44 and Encore at Champion Square. Beautiful venue. Restaurants galore, including Ricky Jackson's Meat Company will be catering. You want to bring a smile to his face? That brought a smile. Call 471-2192 for more information. Ricky's promising grade A, top quality, best in class, right, Rick?
Yeah, man, I tell you. They're going to be rolling.
Kenny, I guess I'll have to go to the gala to sample some of his sausage because I'm still waiting for the package from your shop.
What's up with that?
Yeah.
I mean, you know what? Winn-Dixie, Ross. all the local stores have it.
He missed out on it, Rick. He thought he was too good to take it home.
Right.
You know, unpackaged.
Right.
That's what he said.
I
want. Yeah, you gave it to him.
Quit bullying. Quit bullying.
And he's going to give you the friendship rate, which means double the price, okay? Just for you, just mention your name and they'll double the price.
That's right.
I hope you do. It's sportsNOLA TV from Don's Seafood in Metairie on Veterans Boulevard. We'll take a timeout when we return. We'll take a look at college football, prep football as well on sportsNOLA TV on WHNO Channel 20. Our sportsNOLA.com trivia question of the evening. Sunday night's win was the Saints' 12th straight primetime victory in the Dome. Who was the last team to defeat the Saints at home at night? This is really easy. Saints were 13-0 in 2009 before the Cowboys came in, and DeMarcus Ware was unblockable, and they beat the Saints to end a bid for a perfect season and got the Dolphins of 73, 72 popping the corks again, right? So, hey, it's the way it goes, but Dallas was the last team to beat the Saints, not this time. sportsNOLA TV continues from Don's Seafood in Metairie, where the food's fantastic, the people are great, and we encourage you to check them out on Veterans in Metairie. It's time now for our Hot Seat segment. And the Hot Seat segment is brought to you by Pride Services AC and Heating. Pride Services handles all your AC and heating needs. Since 1984, Pride Services skilled technicians have serviced and repaired all brands and models. They never charge for on-site estimates and pride themselves on fast, reliable service. Get out of the hot seat and call Pride Services. Pride Services will fix it right today. Be here tomorrow. Since 1984. Today's Hot Seat segment is the hottest topic in the land regarding football or sports in general, and that surrounds the situation with the Miami Dolphins, who play on Monday Night Football tonight, the incognito Martin scenario that has really evolved into something much larger. And the hot seat topic, what is acceptable, what is unacceptable in a locker room and on a team? Because we have two guys equipped to talk about that firsthand. And we'll do that right now, but we'll start with the non-player, Brian Alley Walsh. Brian, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Trahan, but I am going to defer to the second half and give the ball to one of my colleagues, one of our colleagues here, because I'm interested in to hear what these guys have to say. T?
What's acceptable and what's not? Now, we're talking about, let's go to the hazing, because a lot of people think hazing, everything is the jump on someone, punching, or physically hurting someone. It's not necessarily physically hurting someone. It's just I look at it as a humbling experience for a guy who's coming into the NFL, regardless of all the hype he had coming out of college. Here's a guy that has to humble himself, maybe have to stand up and sing. You know, back when I came out, I had to stand up on a chair in front of the cafeteria. You had to grab your crouch and put your hand over your heart, and you had to sing a song. That's what I had to do. You know, and sometimes if guys didn't do that, they got their head shaved. Sometimes they just shave guys' heads because they're rookies. Sometimes you go out in the out at practice and come back in and all your clothes are in the shower. Just little things like that. I don't think it's much. I think it's a humbling experience. I think it lets a guy know that, hey, you was a superstar then, here you're a teammate here. We all are superstars here in the NFL. We all are big time guys. We all are the top in our profession. And nobody else gets no higher than the NFL. And I think it's just a fun thing. When it gets too far, when it start getting physical. And it also can get far, this is another thing that can go too far, I think, is you can't stick a $30,000 bill on a guy regardless of how much money he makes. Now, I know I had the opportunity. They told me to bring donuts for everyone, all the receivers, that is. They asked me to bring donuts for all the receivers. It was about 6 of us, 6, 7 if you include some of the developmental. But I wasn't making that type of money to bring everybody a dozen donuts, so I brought 1 dozen. Told everybody to get 1 donut.
What about name calling? What about calling somebody a name? What about threatening somebody's sister with physical violence or with some other thing? I'm telling you
let's talk about that. Some people accept that, some players don't. Certain things, players, when I was in the locker room in my later years, players didn't curse around me. Players didn't say certain things around me because they know that is not me. But you do hear some of those things. You hear a lot of things that's unacceptable. You hear the N-word. You hear the racist talk towards whites. You hear all those things. They happen. But I don't think that makes a player racist because they say, I think they're insensitive and I think they're ignorant to the history of the word.
Let's get Ricky's take. Ricky?
Well, I mean, I was a guy that I didn't believe in hazing at all. I didn't believe in all that. When I came here, nobody messed with me. I put that down from the jump. I wasn't going to do anything that I didn't want to do. I felt like I was starving when I got here. I came here to win ball games. They were losing. I didn't like that. And I didn't feel like you should be messing with nobody until you win some ball games. And that's what my take. I never did mess with anybody. And I kind of got mad because I seen some guys mess with some guys that they tried to hurt guys because guys was taking their position and stuff. And I didn't like that. I mean, so that's one thing about the game when I think you take it too far. You can take a defensive lineman and a guy about to beat him out or take his position because he's a rookie, and then you haze him and mess with him to try to get him off course or get him, from playing football the way he's capable of playing. So that's why I never did like the hazing and stuff. Like Terrence say, they bought donuts and stuff. Wasn't nothing wrong with that kind of stuff to buy a box of donuts and stuff and come. But my thing was, guys were there to focus on trying to be a great ball player, trying to help the team win. And a lot of guys was just there to get a paycheck, so I didn't really like messing with people, and I didn't believe
What
in
about
that.
name calling? Racially offensive names?
Well, I mean, I never heard that, you know what I mean? I never heard the N-word called to nobody or nothing like that. And just like you catch the thing with the guy from Philadelphia, I'm sure that guy one of the best guys in the world. I mean, you know, sometimes people overreact to stuff. I mean, and Terrence know that. People have used the N-word probably or out or something, but, you know, songs, all the songs you listen to now have it in there. I mean, so it's just something that some people take it over the hill when they hear it, and some people don't, according to who uses it.
Brian, about 40 seconds. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think what could the fallout from all of this, after all of the investigations, I think what's going to happen, this is a real possibility, is that you're going to see hazing perhaps banned altogether. And look, Kenny and I are interested in what you guys had to say, because people say that the locker room is like a workspace, and I disagree. Okay, even when I was there in your areas, that's not a workspace. This is different than a workspace. You guys, this is where you guys, get to know each other a heck of a lot better. It's not the same as a workspace.
Well,
you guys
right.
treat it differently.
But
Real quick.
to you guys, the one thing people need to know is it's accepted in some crowds. It's not saying as a whole team,
Right.
as a group accept that what they were saying.
Yeah.
It was just certain people. Certain people don't
Okay.
accept cursing and whatnot.
Well,
that's
no
just
one should excuse someone beating
Exactly.
someone else. No one should excuse somebody violating somebody else by forcing their head to be shaved when they don't want it to be shaved. No one should tape anybody to goalposts. If you want to call people names, that's your prerogative, but I don't get it, especially when it's racially charged and insensitive and wrong. I don't understand it. Don't tell me it's a culture thing. It's a behavioral mode, and it's wrong. Treat people with respect, and then maybe you'll be treated with respect as well. When we return in just a moment, we'll talk college football and high school football as sportsNOLAtv continues from Don's Seafood in Metairie. College football, big weekend. It's LSU, Alabama. Anytime that matchup arises, it's big news. It's national news. It draws national attention. And that was certainly the case in Tuscaloosa this past Saturday night. As we take a look at about 100,000 people, LSU out of the box. Great drive. So let's give it to the fullback, J.C. Copeland. Why? Strip, fumble, kills the drive. And then Mettenberger coming forward. Are you kidding me? Elliott Porter snaps the ball. 2 fumbles turned over. LSU was controlling play, but they gave it away. And then they crashed Jeremy Hill, by the way, running right behind a fullback. That's a novel idea. And score. And then Alabama gets hot. Now watch this. Ronald Martin, the safety, gets outrun by a tight end. Ouch. Alabama, given the second chance, took total advantage, and they just took over and became the better team. They picked on Jalen Mills and got over on him a couple of times. Mettenberger played well, got hit throughout. Great throw there to Doral for the touchdown. But Brian, I made the case that Alabama won this game in the offseason. They won it by recruiting over the last couple of years because the gap has grown between Alabama and LSU on the field, in my opinion.
You know, Kenny, Alabama has the ability to push a button and pick it up a notch. Saban made the decision at halftime. We are going to impose our will. We're going to control the line of scrimmage, and that's what they did.
52 yards for LSU in the second half total, Torrance, after they moved the ball great in the first half.
Well, we got beat up front. The front line is where they got beat, offensively and defensively, and that's where they lost the game.
Alabama's linebackers hit like men, Ricky. LSU's linebackers missed tackles.
Well, you know what was exciting to me, what I didn't understand was how they just ran over the offensive line. LSU has some good offensive linemen, and they just bullied them all the way back to the quarterback. Didn't give him no time, so I couldn't understand that one.
It's called recruiting. I'll say it again. It's called recruiting. And the gap has grown, and Alabama's better. It's that simple, and they're extremely well coached, but you knew that already. As for Tulane, they hit the road to San Antonio to take on UTSA. Defensive struggle. Orleans Darkwa running well. Brian, disappointed because when you play this kind of defense like Tulane did, you got to win the game.
I watched that game in entirety, Kenny. I don't know. I don't understand why Curtis didn't run Darkwa more. And you know what? When you get penalized on the road like they did at crucial times, that cost them big time.
Yeah, 114 yards and penalties. I mean, you can't possibly overcome that with all those mistakes.
No, that keeps the offense with the ball, keep the defensive ball when you have those type of penalties.
6-4 now, Ricky. Still goals in front of them, but they gave up control of trying to win Conference USA with this loss.
Yeah, they gave away 2 games they should have won. I mean, right now they should have been 8. You know what I mean? Ain't no excuse for losing those 2 ball games. He got to regroup and go and let his team, get down to working hard. It seemed like to me they kind of, after they got to the 6th victory, kind of took a little time off. So they got to get back to working.
Kenny, I said it last week, growing pains. I think they're still trying to find their personality. They were 6-2. They had 2 winnable games here, and they threw them both away.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see how they respond. Both LSU and Tulane have a week off before they're back to play. Turning our attention to high school football, the playoffs are on the horizon with 9 classes and our sportsNOLA.com, Greater New Orleans Quarterback Club, WGSO 990 AM and WHNO Television Prep Player of the Week is quarterback Glenn Coulier, the senior from Mandeville, against Covington, 15 of 22, 210 yards, 2 touchdowns, rushed 22 times for 99 yards. Big win for the Skippers, 23-14 over the Lions, and they clinch a tie for the District 6-5A championship. And Brian, this kid's a Tulane commitment, another quarterback for Tulane starting next year.
I'll tell you what, Kenny, you know this as well as I do. Now we've come into the playoffs here, and would you please explain to me the select and non-select? I'd rather do a 1,000-piece puzzle. Wake me up when it's over.
9 championships over 3 days. You talk about, I'm tired just talking about it.
I know.
Yes, I think I'm like Brian. Please explain it to me so I can keep up with who's going to be playing who and who's going to really be a champion or not.
There's more buys than games.
Well, I'll tell you what, a good team's going to take the buys and they're going to wait on the other teams to come to them.
I guess that's what we have to sit back and wait like them, huh? Yes. Definitely.
Well, obviously it's going to be a great time watching what happens with the state playoffs forthcoming, and clearly these are some of the matchups that we'll be watching. In Division I, a rematch game between Brother Martin and Jesuit, Shaw and St. Paul's. Those are both select matchups. De La Salle and St. Charles Catholic, Division II. Division III, you got the other matchups of interest, including St. Thomas Aquinas and Riverside, which is a really good first-round matchup. That should be later down the road with those 2 teams in terms of the quality of those teams. Those are some matchups of interest to keep an eye on. And those are the select matchups. And then in 5A, the non-select side, John Eric goes to Mandeville. That's a delicious first-round game. Terrebonne Destrehan is a district rematch. In 4A, McDonough 35 doesn't have a U in it. People do that frequently. But East Jefferson has lost to them 2 out of 3 years in the first round of the playoffs, and they drew them again. Imagine that. Weird. And EJ hasn't won a playoff game since 1970. Bruley Jules Sumner is a good matchup. Carver gets a home game as a 15 seed against Oakdale in 2A as well. And that's the matchups, and that's a whole bunch of them. And here's the deal, Brian. 99 games in the first round of the playoffs. 99! Count
Kenny, do you think this is this a one-year deal? Do you think they're going to have to address this?
So, but it's not supposed to be.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be 2 years.
Yeah, I know. It's just really and look, I consider myself a high school football fan, but it's hard to embrace this.
Yeah.
The way it's set up.
Well, they'll reconvene in January.
Yeah.
Hopefully calmer heads prevail. It doesn't matter whether you're a public school person, private school person, select, non-select. 9 championships is too many. Playing championships over 3 days is too much. Playing championships at 12 noon on a Thursday for a state championship? It's ridiculous.
Yes. Yes, I just think you have to narrow that down. That's too many champions. We narrow it down and we get a real champion when you have 1 or 2 standing at the end.
Ricky, you played in Florida where you had more schools and you had a lot of classes, but even there you didn't have 9 classifications.
No, they got too many now. I just look at it. They got take so many chances. Guys getting hurt playing all those games too.
Well, you know, to give a team 2 weeks of buys in a championship
Which is
format,
what you have in select.
That's incredible. It's crazy. It's really
I
crazy.
mean, you get to the playoffs and you get a bye. And if you win a game, you get another bye.
Right.
Yes.
And say bye-bye to this system, hopefully, because that's what I think of it. And I know I'm not alone in that regard. And it doesn't matter which side you fall on. If this is the best solution, somebody failed miserably. If it's going to split, you got to come up with a better solution than this. Of course, my personal hope is that they get back together. Stay tuned. I think it depends on where you're located as to whether or not that's going to happen. I think there's a movement in South Louisiana to possibly go in that direction, certainly not in North Louisiana. So unfortunately, I think we're stuck with this and we're going to have to live with it moving forward, at least for the immediate future. And if they don't settle it, if they don't change it, then I wouldn't be surprised if you have a split association, period, and you have a new association formed. We'll take a time out here. We'll take a look at what's to come with the Saints as we continue with Sports NOLA TV from Don's Seafood in Metairie on WHNO Channel 20. Don's Seafood at 4801 Veterans in Metairie. Between Clearview and Transcontinental, you can call 889-1550. 80 years of family taking care of your family. Newly renovated Charbroil Oyster Bar, private meeting rooms, holiday parties, same great recipes. We want to thank Joe Gray and Joanna Doherty for their support from Don's Seafood, as good as it gets, a Louisiana tradition all throughout this fine state. You'll find them, and you'll find great food just as we have here today at Don's. And of course, Prep Recruiting Insider Wednesdays at 6 p.m. It's Ro Brown, it's Renee Nadeau. Spotlight Schools every week, top recruits in the state. You won't want to miss PRI Wednesdays at 6. And you won't want to miss the John Forcade Show presented by Ray Brandt with Mike Detillier Thursdays at 6 p.m. as they get you ready for the football weekend. And Southland Conference Championship on the line. We've got it here on WHNO. The Southeastern Lions against Sam Houston State, Saturday at 3 p.m. live right here on WHNO Channel 20 as we continue to bring you the best in local sports year-round on WHNO. Ken Trahan, Sports NOLA TV from Don's, Saints, and the San Francisco 49ers. And the 49ers are awfully good. Torrance, quick thought. What do you think?
Get healthy. As you said earlier, get healthy, Saints, so we can compete.
Brian?
I like the Saints at home.
Rick?
Defense can win the ball game for us this week.
All right, Saints in a revenge mode. Have lost 2 straight to the 49ers. I'll take the Saints in a real dogfight. All right, so the Saints play the 49ers, and they've got some tough ones following that. It's going to be interesting to see how they fare moving forward. As always, gentlemen, a pleasure. Brian, thank you. As we look at the schedule, the Falcons, the Seahawks, the Panthers, you got the Panthers twice. Very challenging, but we'll see what happens. But again, Brian, appreciate you. Thank you, my friend.
Thanks, buddy. That's good football,
Torrance?
too. That's
Great
good
football.
football.
Appreciate it.
Ricky, always a pleasure, buddy.
Always.
And we want to
And
thank
to
you
Ricky.
for watching. We deeply appreciate you. Way to go, Ricky. The Ring of Honor. It's all good. My man, Ricky. Way to go. For Ricky, for Torrance, for Brian, for the entire crew here at WHNO Channel 20, and for that van as well. Now, this is Ken Trahan saying thanks for joining us, and be a good sport. God bless you one and all. We are rounding third and heading home. So long.